गुड इवनिंग एंड वेलकम टू गना शॉट। गना शॉट में आप सबका स्वागत है। प्रणाम, जय हिंद एंड वणक्कम। आज हम बात करने वाले हैं सियाचिन ग्लेशियर के बारे में। और ये सियाचिन ग्लेशियर में हम रिविजिट कर रहे हैं जनरल कुलकर्णी के साथ। और पहले मैं जनरल कुलकर्णी को वेलकम करना चाहता हूँ। संजय, वेलकम टू गना शॉट। बहुत दिन के
Thank you
बाद
very much,
आपके साथ
sir. Thank you
मिलाप
very
हुआ।
much indeed. And always a pleasure interacting with you because there can be a better person than you who knows everything in and out, on the ground,
नहीं
on the
नहीं,
paper,
या
and you're absolutely familiar. So
या
uh, there is nothing that will be said which, we can't just borrow a satta because you know everything. And your viewers are very, very intelligent. Your viewers are very
या
intelligent, sir.
There's no doubt. There's no
Yeah,
doubt about it. The viewers who come get are some of the best thinkers on
absolutely.
in public space, and of
There's
course they also
no
know
denying the
that
fact.
Gunner Shot is a niche channel where we get the best. And today,
Yes.
for my viewers, I would like to tell you, Lieutenant General Sanjay Kulkarni is one of the best as far as the Siachen area is concerned. Because of the simple reason, he was one of the pioneers to go there. ये वहां उस वक्त गए थे जब कोई हमें जाने का सोच भी नहीं था। हमें पता भी नहीं था कि सियाचिन ग्लेशियर कहाँ है और क्या था उसका मायना क्या है जब ये गए थे। और ये उस वक्त इन्होंने वो हिस्सा थे जो इस एरिया के ऊपर कब्जा किया। This is one of the major operations carried out by India in those days when we actually captured this area and forestalled Pakistanis. और पाकिस्तानीज फिर उसके उस दिन से आज तक वो हाथ पकड़ के they're just wringing their hands and sitting down. So first and foremost, I must say hats off to you, Sanjay, for the fantastic actions with you and your mates at that time took. And so, with this kind of an introduction, over to you. I don't want to talk anything with my little knowledge about the glacier.
You know,
I would like to leave it to you, and you just take off.
thank you very much, sir. At the very outset, because since you were there and you are on ground, you've been to all the entire length and breadth of the glacier because you maintained everybody over there. So there's nothing until unless one sees the ground. But thank you for the introduction. But at the very outset, I must admit that I am not the only person. You know how it is in the army, and we are just a
It's a
small
teamwork.
cog in the wheel. If not for the troops, if not for the backup, if like you were there as Colonel Adam, and you really know what it means. There's nothing. It's a logistics, and logistics. Everybody has to chip in. For one man, there are hundreds of people supporting that one person, and therefore no one. Definitely not me. I wouldn't want to take credit because I know how it is, and everybody knows it. Having said that, sir, a brief as to how, as like आपने बिल्कुल ठीक कहा कि हम लोगों को मालूम ही नहीं था ये क्या है और कैसे चल रहा है. So a brief of the background that we were doing. I was doing the mountain warfare basic course in Gulmarg, and we used to go to Sonamarg. That was in the year of 1978. And while we were doing the course and having just come back from the Vios and then going on this course, it was a real big thing. Or the way we were, suddenly someone just said, and the Colonel Kumar was the commandant of the college, and quietly somebody said they are all going down to Siachen Glacier and something like that. So we just heard something like that being said, but we didn't know very much about it. And as the thing goes, that Colonel Kumar, who was popularly called Bull Kumar, was
Bull Kumar,
also
yeah.
Bull, absolutely Bull, who seems to have had a boxing bout with General Rodrigues, who was his senior in India, who later became the chief of the army staff, and
Yeah,
Bull
Mr.
became the famous mountaineer who has to his credit Mount Everest, Kanchenjunga, has to his credit Padma Shri, Arjun Award, and all that you can talk about. He is one of those and who earned his AVSM in just about 7 years of service, primarily for mountaineering. So that is the kind of spirited man that he was. And he was there, and he had thought of leaving the army, and now he said it is enough, I must quit. And just then his German mountaineer friend, who he happened to have met, and showed him a map. If you show that map, sir, that yellow map, that was the
Yeah, yeah.
map that he showed him. And when he saw that map and this thing, and in discussion with him, the German mountaineer did tell him, yeah, this is the map that he was carrying, and he showed it to him. And he just saw it, and he get a feeling, and talking to the German mountaineer, his friend, with he wanted him to do a rafting expedition. So having said, he said, I'm climbing the area of Teremshire and all these glaciers, but he's doing that from the Pakistani side. And that is where the first alert that came in the mind of Karan Kumar, and he quickly just took that map from him, and decided that he would. Having said, he said yes, yes, what, and finished off with the conversation with his German friend, and then he said that he would approach the army headquarters. And in the army headquarters, obviously, because of his seniority, he had all of them over there. He had the chief of the army staff, then as General Raina from the same regiment. He had the other people over there, General Chibber, who was then the director of the military operations. Those days, they were not known as DGMO, they were known as Director of
Yeah.
Military Operations.
DMO,
And
DMO. Oh.
yeah, DMO, sir. And that is how. So he said, "What is it about?" So Jal Chibber told his this thing, that just have a look, see what is he talking about. So then he said, sir, the German mountaineer, they sought permission from Pakistan, and it is from Pakistan he needs to move
Your,
to
okay.
this glacier area, which is entirely ours. He said, is that so? Let me see the map. And well, of course, Jal Chibber caught on with what it is. And then that it really started, that we really came to know how the poaching or the cartographic aggression. Now, this cartographic aggression has a small little background. Hudson's was a person in the United States who was responsible for maps. And Hudson's map over there at this point was being, and this is where he realized that this particular making, which was entrusted to the Americans had decided that there was a lot of pressure on them from the Indian side, that time and again the state of Jammu and Kashmir seems to have been not shown properly on the map, and part with the way maps were being projected from America was incorrect, and therefore it needs to be done. Hudson had, at that point of time, since the point NJ9842 was the last of the points being actually put on the map, beyond which it said line thence northwards, and this was done as part of the Karachi Agreement. And since this was done as part of Karachi Agreement, which was signed in 1949, of whose the composition of the Karachi Agreement, the military part of it, was General Srinagesh, General Timaya, and then Brigadier Manek Shah. As luck would have it, all three became the chief of the army staff at various times.
Yeah.
General Srinagesh, of course, became the first real chief of the army staff, because before him, he was the commander in chief, and just about the last few days, he was the chief of the army staff. But first chief of the army staff to be appointed as the chief of the army staff was General Srinagesh, and then General Timaya took over from him, and of course, everybody knows about Field Marshal Manek Shah. So this was the Karachi Agreement, which said NJ 9842, then northwards, and Hudson's, because of the pressure which came to them as to please have your maps corrected, he just arbitrarily drew a line joining NJ 9842 with Karakoram Pass, primarily again, as I say, is to ensure the ADIZ. That means to ensure that all flying maps, the pilots must know as to whether they are flying over India or are they flying over any other part of the world other than India. So it was with that point of view. But Pakistanis took that and drew that straight line. Generally, in mountains, the lines are not drawn so straight, so it is quite obvious. And we had in the Karachi Agreement to say point NJ 9842, last delineated, demarcated, and a point known for where it was said thence northwards. And thence northwards actually meant running along the Soltoro ridge line, going extending up to K2 or Karakara or up to Indra Col, whichever way might take it. And K2, incidentally, is the world's second highest peak after Mount Everest. So that was a very clear. But Pakistanis accepted and quietly this cartographic error, or because of the Pakistan's close association then with the United States as part of CENTO, as part of SETO, it accepted and they were deciding to do it. And most of the foreign expeditions, which also subsequently came out in National Geographic and various mountaineering magazines, that the Japanese, the French, the Germans, the Americans were all seeking permission from Pakistan to get into what is now the world mountaineers paradise. Fantastic peaks, all ranging over 24,000 feet, snow covered, Siachen Kangri, Soltoro Kangri, Terem Kangri, and the entire range, in even the walk right up to Indra Col, the Karakoram 2, all of that. Just, it's a mountainous paradise with so many peaks over 24,000 feet. With that as a backdrop, and this, Colonel N. Kumar volunteered that he would wish to take the mountain warfare course as a part of the patrolling, or as part of the long range patrolling, or as part of climbing peaks, as part of the course curriculum to Siachen Glacier. So that was the first attempt that was done by him to take on the Siachen Glacier. And in 1981, before that, in 1979, 1980, 81, the parts of under Colonel N. Kumar, whether as part of climbing Terem Kangri or going up to Indra Col, skiing down from Indra Col, all that he was doing it as 81. After 81, the seriousness started to say that the Indian Army would conduct the long range patrolling, that is to stay on the glacier for 3 months. Now, these were all expeditions which were going and coming, climbing, and things of those kind which you done, during which two major incidents happened. That the Pakistanis flew their fighter over the Siachen Glacier, primarily to scare Colonel N. Kumar's mountaineering expedition, to be able to say that, look, you are sort of transgressed and have come into, as they perceive, as their territory. And there was a certain amount of old these foreign expeditions which invariably would find their way into Siachen Glacier or climb through a pass called Belafonla. So Belafonla is the pass which was easily accessible to the mountaineers coming from Pakistan side, along
Yeah.
with an army officer accompanying them. So this is what it was. However, in 1981, the first attempt was done as part of the Ladakh scouts there, were tasked as part of Ibex hunt that they would stay for 3 months and they would be able to do it. Now, when this was being done, and 82, the Ladakh scout had done, 81, of course, there was an expedition which part of which was the present USI Director General also, General Sharma. He was also part of that 1981 who went along with them. 82, then the Ladakh scouts did what they call it as the Ibex hunt. 83, I went as part of Polar Bear. And then in 84, we launched Operation Meghdoot on 13th of April, 1984. So we had in 82 also, since we had, as Fort Kumau, had moved into that area. So when people say that, well, again, as I said, so I was there at the right place at the right time. And I would say I got an opportunity because I had done the courses. It's very rare that you find in the battalions at that point of time, somebody will say, well, who all have done mountain warfare. So yeah, this officer has done mountain warfare. Okay, since you've just come back having done mountain warfare, basic and advanced, come on, now start preparing and start going for LRP. So that is the way it is. It is nothing to do with anybody doing uniquely this thing. That was the way one got selected and said, okay, now lead a patrol and stay there for 3 months. In this process of patrol, in 1983 at Belafonda, we found some wrappers, and those soda wrappers had Japanese marking. And that was a clear indication that some mountaineers had been coming. And General Bipin Rawat's father, who was a general at that point of time in 15 Corps, he flew in and he asked me as to, where did you find these wrappers? I told him, sir, I found them at Belafonla, and this is what it is. He says, perfectly fine. He took the wrappers with him and he left. That was in 1983. And thereafter, in 83, subsequently in the month of October, is where the real thing starts, when the Pakistanis detect that we are all flying around and moving around in the glacier, such lovely glaciers whose photograph you are showing on the screen. That's the kind of glacier. What you see, lovely ribs, a glacier which is 76 kilometers long, 3 to 5 kilometers wide, temperatures going down as -50, -70 degrees, winds blowing at about 125, 150 kilometers an hour, the wind chill factor which is over there, breathing is difficult, walking is difficult, eating is difficult, sleeping is a problem, frostbite, chill blains, headaches, insomnia, hallucinations, and you can snow blindness, high altitude pulmonary edema, name a thing, and a chap would be, you will find that these kind of difficulties were there. But we were able to overcome these difficulties because of our doing the long range patrollings in 82, doing that in 83, and then launching these operations in 84. Now, what photograph that you're showing now is the confluence of the Shok and the Nubra. That's the place, Shok and the Nubra at Khalsa. This is the place, that photograph where the confluence took place, and the one onto the left is the Shok, which flows and goes straight to Turtuk and joins the river Indus. And from onto the right of that feature that we see flows the Nubra, which is coming out of Siachen and then joins the Shok and then moves along and joins the Indus from along the Turtuk. This thing. Now, Turtuk, what we refer to is Baltistan. It's part of Baltistan, which we captured in 1971. So the Karachi Agreement, despite having said and having had the similar agreement, this part of that NGA 9842 thence northward is something which has not changed. Whether it was part of Karachi Agreement or whether it was part of the similar agreement, this portion remains the same. Where much that Pakistanis may have said, no, 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 the due north, some people say magnetic north, true north, or this thing. But whatever it may be, whether it is true north, whether it is the magnetic north, the variation doesn't go 90 degrees apart. It's just 2 degrees, 3 degrees here and there. So this kind of play with the Pakistanis was on. However, then when we were entrusted, I was told that, look, you have to be taking yet another. You've taken the patrol in the year of 1983. You will again take the patrol in 1984. In 1983, later in October, General Musharraf, who in his book In the Line of Fire writes very clearly, he was posted then in the MO. He was the DDMO in his MO branch of Pakistan. And since he was a colonel, awaiting his rank to become a brigadier, he's an artillery officer, but part of the SSG. And their Corps Commander, Jahan Dat Khan, the 10 Corps, which was responsible for this area, and their Northern Frontier GOC, General Peer Dat Khan, he was there. And their SSG commander, Brigadier Tariq Mahmood, he was there. Now, Tariq Mahmood is supposedly an excellent SSG man, which Musharraf claims in his book In the Line of Fire. Now, General Dat Khan, because of what happened in the year of 1983, despite the northern area commander, the northern light infantry, there were 62 brigade of the Pakistani army there. They realized it that in October, the Pakistanis came on top of the Siachen Glacier, but couldn't sustain themselves. Despite having put the best of troops of the SSG, they had to pull back. And since they pulled back in the month of October, General Jahan Dat Khan, the 10 Corps commander, who remained as a Corps commander for a long time, from 1980 to 1984. He retired in March 1984, and these operations are up. So he said that, look, whatever it may be, and Pirzad Khan, who was the northern area commander, he said, look, whatever be the reason, the way in 1983 our troops have not been able to sustain themselves, the Pakistanis said that, well, the equipment was not good, it was very, very cold, and they were kept at Bila Phone line. In about 10 days' time, they found, and then the report started coming from their SSG to them that the troops will die and they will not be able to sustain themselves, so they had to pull back. Having pulled back, then the Pakistanis went down to Europe and picked up the mountaineering equipment. And this input came to RAW and all others that the Pakistanis are shopping for the equipment which is snow clothing in Europe. And when we went to buy for subsequent, we realized that the Pakistanis had bought the entire mountaineering equipment from Europe to sustain the troops. But the date given by their northern area commander was the 1st of May. So they probably wanted. That is what Musharraf writes, that the 1st of May was the date given. And he writes in his book that India preempted Pakistan by occupying the glacier on the 13th of April. And General Dahat Khan puts it before, after he retired, that if this was a masterstroke by India, had it not been for Indians, and then subsequently they could never ever dislodge, though by then Musharraf becomes a brigadier, and subsequently 1987 attacks on Siachen are led by Musharraf himself, where he finds himself unable to sustain, defeated at all times, and where Bana gets his Paramveer Chakra, having occupied the Kaith post and defeating the Pakistanis, pushing them out into it. That is all along the Saltoro ridgeline. Pakistanis are nowhere near Siachen Glacier. They were not even near anywhere there. But the approach to Siachen from the Pakistani side is much easier, because they can come right onto the foothills of the Saltoro ridgeline in their vehicles, and it takes 1 day for them to climb up. Unlike for us, who from the base camp, we have to have Camp 1, Camp 2, Camp 3, Camp 4, Camp 5, Camp 6, all things. So they knew all this, that the Indians take a long time to walk up, whereas they can do. And despite that, they were taken aback. And this is what then made Musharraf, when he became the chief of the army staff, as to how would he then be able to dislodge the Indians and put Indians into the way India preempted Pakistan in 1984. Pakistanis did the same to us at Kargil. So the 1999 action and the works of Musharraf is primarily because what happened. And as luck would have it, I was with one of the erstwhile army commanders of ours who said this thing while he was sitting with Musharraf, because Musharraf being an alumni of the US, this thing. So the ex-army commander was also a part of it, and he was sitting on the same table for lunch and talking. He himself admitted, Musharraf himself told him that, look, what you all did to us at Siachen, I did it to you in Kargil. So it's all squared up. Yeah, for Kargil. So he himself admitted that the Kargil was because he felt that he had been let down, and let down because he said in 1984, rather, what 84, from 83, as part of the MO, he was listening to all this, what was going on. And subsequently, when he became a brigadier, he did launch attacks, he failed. And again, later also, when he was the chief of the army staff, he dug out the old plan of Kargil and did what he had to do as part of Kargil. Having said this, now this as a backdrop, we decided that it would be launched on 13th of April. Now, why 13th April? I don't think at that point of time we knew the Paki plan of 1st May. I don't think we really knew, because Pakistanis thought that the Indians invariably come in the month of July, August. So preempting them by 2-3 months in May, because it's extremely cold, they would succeed in capturing these heights and be over there. But we decided that it would be on the 13th of April, because Brigadier Channa, who was the sector commander, then this thing was entrusted and this area came under him. He said, no, we launch these operations on the 13th of April, because 13th of April is Baisakhi, and we will do so. And General Hoon then decided that if that be so, we will ensure that we occupy the heights with a helicopter, and therefore the operation will be called Op Meghdut, because it will be from skies that we are going to drop our troops by helicopter and occupy these two passes, basically two passes, Dilla Fondla and Siala. And that was the way it was done. But on the 13th of April, when we decided that we would be able to launch our operation, we suddenly found that the pilot then, despite having done a recce a day before that, he said, look, Sanjay, I'm sorry, and we'll not be able to land. You'll have to jump from the helicopter. I said, jump from the helicopter would not be a major thing, because I'm familiar with the area, and I was in the first leading helicopter with me and my radio operator. I said, jumping would not be a problem, but just keep that in mind, because it's early hours of the morning. It's about 5:30. It's still okay, because it's quite hard. The ice is there, so that would not be a problem. But at the same time, wherever you want me to jump, make sure that there is no crevice. And it shouldn't so happen that I jump with that, I get into a crevice. Yeah, and another problem will start. So the very start of the operation will be with a problem. So I suggest what we do. I said, I've got a small Arteka Bori because two of us in one helicopter and all of us were self-contained supposedly. And so, as luck would have it, just below my seat was a 5 kg Arteka small little bag. I told him, I said, look, let's open the window and let it throw this down and we will see how much does it sink. If it doesn't sink very much and it's still on the surface, that means perfectly fine. There's no problem. I'll jump. So he said, okay, we'll drop it. So he hovered a little, pushed that down, and we saw that duck, and it was okay on top only. It hadn't sunk. I said, cool, I'm jumping. So he said, okay, you jump. I said, jump. Moment I jumped, I found that it was okay. A little bit of a cushion was there because the top layer had soft snow. So that also gave me that cushioning effect. It was not on the hard ice that I was actually jumping on. So I said, perfectly fine. I gave him a thumbs up. He hovered around a little bit and then came and dropped. The other helicopter, which was behind us, also had two boys each in it. They were also watching what is going on over there. And then suddenly, when he dropped, the radio operator took off, and then the other two choppers, one by one, once I gave them a thumbs up, I said, this seems hard. I just walked over it. The second pilot was observing me. What am I doing? I said, this is all hard, no problem. You can just land perfectly fine. Because in 83 also, we noticed that until unless the helicopters, and I've seen later, and the entire chopper can go into a crevice. Entire chopper. Unbelievable it is. And it happened when I was a chief of staff of 14 Corps. Entire chopper just go into the crevice. So it can be so bad because you get a whiteout condition. When the choppers are just about landing, you find that the snow is thrown up. And when the snow is thrown up, the pilot cannot see anything. It's a total whiteout. And when it's just about landing and it's just touching down, it could just be on a crevice and it can just go down inside. And this is all over. So it can be so terrible. So with that in mind, and having done that 13th of October, but as the same set of choppers were required for the Siala operations. We were expected to finish off with our landings by about 11 o'clock, and from 11 o'clock by about, say, 1 o'clock, they would have finished off with Siala, and both Villafonla and Siala would have been held on the 13th of April. But it didn't happen. By the time it was about 11:30, oh, we found sudden change. Sudden means unbelievable change. Wow. We said, what's happened to this weather? Oh, the visibility dropped. What was clear in the morning, visibility dropped. The wind started blowing. It was blizzardous, absolutely blizzardous. I said, my God, despite all our trainings in this thing, this is what we are suffering. And not only that, the radio operator, within about an hour or so, he started complaining. He said, sir, मेरा तो सर दर्द हो रहा है, मेरे को तो दिक्कत आ रहा है, and I could make out that his eyes and all, that orientation he was losing. I said, are you okay? Are you okay? He said, so first chopper that was to go back, I told that chap, I said, please take this boy, otherwise he's going to conk off here. Because I think he's suffering very badly. And despite all the training, this thing, so the first casualty evacuated was within hours of a landing over there. Sorry. So with that as this thing, I find myself 13th. I can't go to Villafonla because we were dropped just about a little short of Villafonla and not on top of Villafonla. 13th bad weather, 14th bad weather, 15th bad weather. We are attempting to go, we can't. We are deep into snow, waist deep, just can't move forward. Terrible time. I said, what has happened all this suddenly? Because we were also not experiencing the April weather ever. We'd been going there in the month of July, August, September, October, but not, and I never expected it would be so bad. Thank God for General Hoon, who managed to get some clothing from Switzerland and all over Europe, and that clothing came to us on the 12th of April in the evening. Can you imagine? In the evening, it was just about getting last night when this entire clothing come. At night, we all just gave ourselves, each one of us who were to be dropped on the glacier. Everybody had that the top jacket, the trousers, the balaclava, the glasses, the shoes, the socks, and everything, the heat kings, everything, the small pop tents, all of it came on the 12th of evening. And therefore, I thought, thank God for this kind of equipment. Otherwise, we would have had a real rough time. But sure enough, we did have. By 16th of April, unable to have moved because we just couldn't move out, only not even 100 feet, 200 feet. We lost one boy. And last night, Ramesh, who had been with me in 1983, I thought he was excellent. I told him once he did complain, I'm not feeling too bright. I said, you want to go back along with this boy who's gone back? Because after this, there'll be no choppers because nothing will come. The weather's turned bad. He said, no, no, it's perfectly fine. I'll be okay. Nothing. 16th, while I was walking towards Belafonla, I get this thing from my company commander over there, Major Sandhu. Sanjay, come back. I said, what happened? He said, no, your friend Ramesh I think, is no more. I said, what? No more? What happened? He says, I can see some froth in his mouth. You come back. So I got back and I saw Ramesh. I said, my God, no, this poor little thing is no more. I said, then what do we do now? So Colonel Sandhu said, look, this is only the third day, and up to 5 days, it's radio silence. We are not supposed to open our radio set. And this is just the third day. As I said, irrespective of third day or the fifth day and not opening, let's open the radio. And though the radio operator is already not there, but we'll handle with the radio and tell them that such a thing has happened. Because for next 2 days, where do we keep him? We can't keep him inside the tent because every tent has just about 2 to 3 boys, and one of them will be him. And we can't keep him out because it will be very difficult, neither inside nor outside. And no more, but then it's very difficult. I said, and we don't have a extra pup tent also. All of them are all everywhere. So he said, what do we do? I said, sir, let's open the radio set and convey of a casualty and leave it to them to decide what it is. Even if they hear us that there is a casualty, they will make some attempt to send a chopper or find out from us whatever it is. Sure enough, same thing happened. Moment we did not hear anything from their side, but they could hear us that some casualty has occurred. So a chopper came and said, what happened? He said, please take this casualty back. So Ramesh was taken, and that was at least thereafter that we were left on the first day from 30 that we were there, we were 29. Even before we had touched Belafonda, we had become 28. And now, for the next few days, it was bad. It was really bad. Weather improved after a day or two. Siala could be occupied. And believe you me, the kind of casualties, of course, no fatal casualty we had, but chilblains, frostbite, snow blindness, all kinds of hallucinations to an extent you'll be surprised. At that height, you'll find the shooting stars. It'll be surprising. I didn't believe it. A shooting star. And at night, somebody would just come to me and say, Sahab, दुश्मन ने फायर किया. ऐसे दुश्मन का फायर कहाँ से आया? मोटर फायर. अरे साहब, अभी सामने गिरा. Nothing. You spend the whole night finding out till you saw another shooting star come. Now, dekho, dekho. I said, this is a shooting star, Baba. These are stars because of the height that you see them come down. ये दुश्मन का नहीं है, ये आसमान से आ रहा है. Relax, don't worry. And but this is the kind of pressure that a Jawan who's just about as young as 21, 22, all young boys, see all the crevices, opening of the crevices, what noise it makes, the crackling noises as if some firing has taken place somewhere or some bombshell has happened. Da-da-da. It's really bad. So, however hard you might train, but this kind of on-the-job training is essential because only when you are there that you know and see for yourself how crevices open up, how avalanches will come down, what kind of shooting stars are over there, how do you see for long distances, how difficult it is to stand and breathe. And to tell the boys that don't be a Gama in the land of Lama. That is something which you have to follow, and absolutely. And I said, pet mein roti, haath mein soti, chal choti. Breathe and your steps must synchronize. Your breathing, stepping, synchronize. I said, if you don't do that, you will find it extremely difficult. Don't run or whatever it is. And it helped a great, great deal because it was at the 13th and the first firing from the Pakistani side came around the 27th of April. First fire from Pakistan came on 27th of April. And again, before the firing came on the 17th of April, when we were on top of Belafonla, the Paki Bell chopper came right on top of us. And when he saw me, and the our eyes, the pilot's eyes and my eyes saw each other. They was flying very close to the law because of the height. Oh, he saw, I saw him. He just took a U-turn and took off. Now the Pakis knew the Indians were sitting on Belafondla. They must have tried it on from the Konduz Glacier going to Siala. They would have found Siala also occupied. They would have gone to Gyongla. And then that is how they found that the entire Saltoro ridgeline was occupied. The Pakistanis could not, in any case, venture attacks. Did take place. That was the 17th. On the 23rd of June, 1984, was the first attack on Belafondla. First attack on Belafondla, which another very interesting thing last night, Chanchal, who was the only fatal casualty we had on that day of attack. The Pakis lost a large number of men, but the only fatal casualty we had was Chanchal. This boy Chanchal, as luck would have it, it was bad weather, extremely bad weather. A young boy from my company, since I was from Charlie Company, a young little boy, and just got married. And I suddenly came out of my tent and I moved around and I said, "Are such bad weather? Where is the sentry here?" So I called out the patrol leader. I said, "Where is the sentry?" साहब इधर ही था चंचल है इधर ही है इधर है." And nothing. In sheer frustration, I kicked a snow mound. I said, "क्या यार तुम लोग?" And what do I feel? I find Chanchal. Chanchal had been sitting at one place and the snow had accumulated all around him and it became like a snow mound because the poncho that he was wearing gave him that nice protection and he was very firm inside. He was terrified. He said, sa. I said, "Hey, Chanchal, what are you doing inside?" He said, "Nahi sahab, ye hai, waise." I said, "Doesn't matter. Learn." I said, "Moment to sit." And especially when you are with this kind of a clothing, you develop that kind of a bubble around you that gives you warmth, and then you feel you're very very comfortable. But you can see nothing because you have head down, poncho around you, which is white in color, snow around you. You become a snow mound. Luckily, that mound was visible and I could kick. But otherwise, if it had been plain, you would not have been detected. You would have just gone into the snow. And that boy saved us on the 23rd of June 1984. He was the sentry in the morning. And the morning sentry, he is the one who detected some movement on the ice on the Ali Brangza side coming up. And he says, up, he told us a patrol leader, Dushman. And the chap came to me at about 4:30 in the morning. And I had nice instructions passed. I said, every 45 minutes to 1 hour, whoever is the person, he'll come to my tent and wish me in whatever greetings that you are known for, because we are a mixed composition of troops. Somebody would say Ram Ram Saab, somebody would say Jai Hind Saab, somebody would say Sat Sri Akal Saab. So whatever, somebody would say, the Nunus would say Jule Sable. So whatever, and whichever way I said, you just follow your greeting, but you will all greet me every 1 hour so that I'll know. And if I don't answer back, please peep into my pup tent to see whether I am dead or alive. So every time they would say, when he said in 4:30 in the morning, साहब चंचल बोल रहा है सब हरकत दुश्मन का. I said, "Dushman? How can Dushman come here? It's not possible for anybody to climb from anywhere." He said, "No, some harakat he has noted." I said, "Okay, now tell the boys, get into a stand to." And the trenches, in the sense, the trenches made that snowfall would happen and cover all of those trenches. All that one had to do during the stand to is to just clear it, and then one could move around. My God, I couldn't believe the 4:30, the Pakis, I could see them moving up. I told them, I said, just lie low. Keep your cool. Moment they come close, fire at them and just see. And then the Pakis saw from the particular ridgeline that is there, that there is some movement which has now taken place. The Indians have been alerted, and the first shot of the HMG came and hit was Chanchal. And Chanchal became a fatal casualty on that particular day. But he saved us on not letting me. So therefore, sometimes it happens that these kind of things are a blessing in disguise, because he got ticked off in one of the earlier day times and he found that he was so alert. But for the viewers, I must admit, and to most of us, all this training that we all rather gather and learn from at Siachen came subsequently for years that we are there, handy in Eastern Ladakh. There's not a battalion, I think, of the Indian Army which may not have gone through Siachen. everybody would have had a tenure in Siachen. And that is what gives every Indian soldier that confidence that he can operate at high altitude. There is nothing that can stop him. If he can fight the kind of climatic conditions at that height and under those adverse conditions, blizzardous conditions, he can sustain himself anywhere and without any problem. And that is why we find that Galwan and post Galwan and subsequently, even till date, the way we occupy eastern Ladakh and all the places which are extremely, extremely difficult, even Siachen per se. And Siachen since 2003 has had a ceasefire. 2000 since 2003, neither Pakistan nor India have attempted to fire on each other. There have been this thing, but no firing on each other has taken place on Siachen since 2003. The number of casualties that have taken place on Siachen from our side, as much as there would have been from the Pakistani side also, Pakistani may have had a little more because two or three of the companies came under avalanche and got wiped out. And after that, they attempted to have kind of a disengagement. But since Pakistan can't be trusted, as everybody knows, and you withdraw from any of these heights, subsequently reoccupation, if Pakistanis play dirty, it would be very difficult. And Pakistan till date doesn't seem to accept the AGPL because the actual ground position, they don't want to show that Siachen is not with them. Not only not with them, they are miles away from Siachen and nowhere close to Siachen. But they don't want to disclose. And Benazir Bhutto has been rather probing Ziaul Haq and subsequently everybody else also that you people are all useless lot who have not been able to push anything. So, but the ceasefire holds on Siachen. The casualties, I mean, even if we had about, say, 1,000 odd casualties on Siachen, 800 can be attributed to purely bad weather, extremely bad weather. And despite the best of efforts that the uh, army has made, and government provisions are there, fantastic huts have come up, heating arrangements are there, communication facilities are there, snow scooters are there, helicopters are there for logistic support, the porters are there, the nunules are class, the force multiplier, all of it is there. There is no denying fantastic development and modernization that has taken place from 1984 till whatever it is. But weather still plays very hell. We don't know because body, whatever said and done, and it is not that somebody is a huge and tough will survive. It's just that one's bodies adjust faster. Some people take a little longer to adjust to this kind of terrain. But all said and done, the bottom line is don't be a Gama in the land of Lama. Alertness is what is very important because if you have to stay alert, stay alive. That's the basic principle. No complacency, whatever 1 hour duty that anybody gives, they give it with sincerity, and that is what keeps it going. The best of food, you can have the best of food, no denying the fact. You can name a thing and it is available, whether they're dry fruits to pre-cooked foods to anything and everything that either the DRDO has made it and given or it's come from outside. The clothing which is over there, which can sustain minus 50 degrees, minus 75 degrees, the tentage that is there, the fiberglass huts that are there, the bukharis that are there, the kind of that the kind of you could say that they call it the king, small little jelly which could allow the little pup tent to be kept warm. The communication, talking to the families now, all of it. Now we've even had a lady officer spend almost 90 days on top of the glacier because that's the period we generally give to everybody. The doctors have a real tough time because doctors are not very large in numbers available. So, but the communication with each other, briefing with each other, interacting with each other, I think most of the battalions now have such fantastic record that they stay on the glaciers without suffering any casualty. And that's a great thing because that is something which every battalion commander wishes and this thing. And you have everyone. The gunners are doing a fantastic job. The Air Force, the aviation of ours, fantastic job. Without which it's impossible to survive because logistics is something without which you cannot. And despite the best of logistics, it's difficult. and the experience that one gets. It's like having passed a test. Anybody who would say, Siachen mein raha, say, ha, sir. That means you know that this chap now can withstand hardship, like what has happened in that, you see in the tunnel, where for so many days chaps are stuck just because they're hardy, just because they are tough, just because they know that they can, that frugal ability to survive under the hardest of conditions, despite what is going outside, they survive, because this is where the training that the Indian army and our Jawans get, and the kind of ability to withstand the hardship, is the something which I think the world has to recognize, and we ourselves must be grateful to our men who are outstanding, outstanding. There is nobody who can say that our men will let us down. Not at all. They inspire you, they motivate you, they tell you to put in your best, because they are going to be there irrespective, and nothing to do with the what arm or what this is. It is individual. You will find all so many gunner, so many engineer officers, so many people from signals, ordnance, AC, infantry, everybody is there. Some volunteer from armored corps, volunteering from mechanized, everybody is there only to get a feel as to what is it like, and surviving under those conditions is class. Now the next thing that having got the part of it, a small incident, I must tell you, that despite all this, how things can go wrong, how things can go wrong. There were a group of about 5 men, I remember, in a tent, and a little later, they told me, Saab, it was in general area of Siala, which is over 19,000. So I got a call, and they told me, कि साहब एक वो ठीक नहीं है. I said, what happened? I said, where is the officer? They said that the officer has just gone down, and he's on his way up. But right now, the blizzardous weather, and we are finding that we are not able. I said, don't worry. If you can talk, and is the stove of yours on in your tent? They said, ha, sir. I said, if the stove is on because the oxygen is there. Why are you worried? I said, there's enough. Otherwise, if there is no oxygen, your stove will not, there won't be any
Burn
fire.
all.
I said, don't worry, relax. I said, sharp, he said, better no. Kuch nahi. But sure enough, this kind of fear which had got him, I saw in about 15 minutes, 3 men lose their life. 3 men, perfectly fine. Because the blizzardous weather, they couldn't believe that such a thing had hit them. And they're talking on the telephone with me. One gone, second gone, third gone. I said, what's going on? I told one chap, I said, relax. What is आराम करो, कोई चिंता मत करो. He said, साहब वो चला गया, वो चला गया, वो चला गया. I said, कोई बात नहीं, कोई बात नहीं, कुछ नहीं. And the other two left very well, no problem at all. So sometimes psychologically also some people do have, but then you have to prepare them for that hardship. It happens. So this is something which is worse, seeing men into avalanche, seeing men fall into crevice, see the whole of it going into crevice. Well, very, very difficult. But the kind of camaraderie, the kind of training, the kind of leadership that our young officers provide, and up to commanding officers that they're there, oh, class, super. I think we can be proud of our men. We can be proud of our JCOs. We can be proud of our officers. What fantastic training, what fantastic motivation, and they are all up and about, all up and about. Doctors, very, very difficult, because poor doctors, I may be doing one tenure of 90 days, the doctor may have to do two tenure of 90 days each after some time again. So doctors are really hard pressed, but they do a wonderful job. The Air Force, what you can see a helicopter take off and fall just there in front of you. It's taken off, just tucked down. Why? Because it couldn't lift. Despite they just stay there for a short time, land by the time within about maybe half a minute, you unload everything and it takes off. But within that time, also you can see things going wrong. Very difficult, extremely, extremely difficult. But men ought to be happy. The nation can be proud of everybody. And who better than you, who've been a Colonel Adam over there, who has sustained people over there, who has ensured that each one of them get the best, who has walked, you have walked all over, all three parts of the glaciers you've seen. And you can safely say that yes, there is no doubt this is the real test, an asset test, a test of a soldier that yes, if he can do it here, he can do it everywhere. Because after ultimately, it's what matters are boots on ground. What matters is the man behind the machine. And these men of
Yeah,
ours,
I think
we
so.
ought to really look after. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think you have laid out for everyone who watches this program something fantastic, a first-hand account of how Bela Fondla was taken, and then side by side of Fiala Pass. Let me tell everyone what's the importance of these. If these two passes had not been taken in those days, Siachen Glacier would have been lost. So people are asking, कि सर सियाचिन ग्लेशियर में रह के क्या फायदा हुआ हमें इतने साल 30 साल से ज्यादा हो गया अभी So let me tell you, if we had not taken Siachen Glacier at that point of time, Pakistanis would have taken the Siachen Glacier. Like General Kulkarni said, the approach from the Pakistani side, Gyari, Kondas, everything was easy. They could have crossed. Once they had crossed and come down the Siachen Glacier to some, even halfway, then we couldn't have taken it back. If that had happened then, in 2020, when the Eastern Ladakh incident happened, right, it would have kept China and Pakistan just next to each other and they would have linked up. If they had linked up, we would have lost northern Ladakh and this entire area of this glacier area for good. And India's head would have been chopped off. So that's the first thing you have to understand. बहुत लोग हमने 30 साल से ज्यादा इसके ऊपर हमने कुर्बानी दिया है कि ये साल्टोरो रिज जिसके ऊपर ये ग्लेशियर टिका है ग्लेशियर की डिफेंसेस टिका है एक्चुअली अगर आप देखेंगे तो ये जो ग्लेशियर है ये जाता है और साल्टोरो रिज के ऊपर खत्म होता है वो अगर हम पकड़ते नहीं तो ये पीएलए और पाकिस्तान आर्मी को अलग नहीं रख सकते थे वो इकट्ठे हो जाता थे तो हमारा केस खत्म दूसरी बात इस 30 साल में मेरे ख्याल में हर यूनिट इंडियन आर्मी का ग्लेशियर में गया है क्योंकि किसी वक्त पे 3 यूनिट ग्लेशियर के ऊपर होते हैं और ये बदली होते रहते हैं 6 महीने के बाद हर 1 साल के अंदर 6 महीने के अंदर बदली होते रहते हैं तो इस हालत में पिछले 25-30 साल में all our units have turned over on the glacier and have learned to live on the glacier, learned to survive on the glacier, the toughest conditions in the world. इसीलिए when the Chinese came into Ladakh, Eastern Ladakh in 2020, we could mobilize and handle them because we had this 30 years of experience where in every battalion which had gone across to sit on the in Eastern Ladakh had gone through tougher conditions on Opmate Booth. The third major thing, which full credit to General Kulkarni who started. In the 30 years, our entire logistics on this area got stabilized. जैसे इन्होंने बताया ये पूरा लड़ाई जो है लॉजिस्टिक्स का गेम है लड़ाई तो फायरिंग तो कम ही होता है पर अगर आपका लॉजिस्टिक्स ठीक नहीं है तो सब मर जाएंगे सिर्फ मर जाएंगे बस और कुछ नहीं होगा एक दिन उनके पास खाना नहीं होगा दूसरे दिन वो बस आप वो बर्फ के साथ जम जाएंगे यहाँ तक हम गए हुए हैं तकरीबन तक सारे पोर्ट के ऊपर मैं गया हूँ वहां उन दिनों में प्याज गिनते थे हम जाके कि भाई आपके पास कितना प्याज है आपके पास कितना आटा है कितना तेल है कितना सब कुछ राइट सब छोटे छोटे चीज बट जिंदा रखने के लिए हर छोटी चीज की जरूरत होती है दैट काइंड ऑफ लॉजिस्टिक्स कैपेबिलिटी व्हिच वी बिल्ट ऑन द सियाचिन ग्लेशियर एंड इन सस्टेनिंग ट्रूप्स across some of the most inhospitable terrain in the world helped us mobilize and sustain troops in 2020 against the Chinese in Eastern Ladakh. ठीक और अभी तक द चाइनीज आर नॉट स्टेबल देयर हम स्टेबल स्तर हो चुके हैं वी नो हाउ टू सर्वाइव देयर वी नो हाउ टू मैनेज द सिचुएशन यू लुक एट पाकिस्तान पाकिस्तान हैज ऑलरेडी गिवन अप ऑन दिस एरिया इनकी क्षमता नहीं है कि आज के दिन देखिए 1995 up to about 2000, they were trying to get hold of, foothold on this glacier वगैरह. They could not. डटे रहे हम. उसके बाद उन्होंने छोड़ दिया. Why did they accept the ceasefire? Because they couldn't sustain their losses. Today, they cannot sustain even the weather-related losses where we have sustained. And then the fact that this kind of experience which you have had is unparalleled. That's what makes Indian Army tough. It is not just the infantry which goes, it's the engineers who go, artillery who goes, the pilots who go, right? Everyone goes there. And everyone is a boot on ground. Okay? And everyone contributes to the whole system. And everyone contributes to the experience which the Indian Army has been gaining for 30 years. And that experience, combined with the fact that other than this area, all our army does a lot of other high altitude tenures today enables us to hold the Himalayan ridgeline against PLA with tremendous amount of confidence. ये बात नहीं है कि Siachen glacier ही सबसे खराब चीज है. You go to Eastern Ladakh, that place has got its own challenges. It is even probably worse. You go to Sikkim, there it has its own challenges. तो क्योंकि ये हमारे पास ये मानसिक दृढ़ता है इस इलाके को पकड़ के रखने के लिए, राइट? सो और हम ये बात ये है कि ये this has become a kind of a tradition in the Indian Army to face high altitude with mental toughness. We have a system, we have institutional capability and memory as to how to handle high altitude areas. This is something which we have learned and learned and learned by bleeding to death and freezing to death. Some of us, which we didn't have in 62. We didn't have this kind of leadership. The next thing is leaders. You see death next to you, you see a dead body next to you, you're still continuing to fight. Right? And so leadership develops in these tough conditions. And in those tough conditions, when leadership develops, you can defend any part of the world. And this is something which everyone knows in the world. That's why they will not trifle. अब देखिए यांगजे में लास्ट एक साल पहले कुछ हुआ था, इसी टाइम अक्टूबर नवंबर की बात है. एक साल तक अगेन पीएलए हैज नॉट कम बैक. दे विल नॉट कम बैक आल्सो, क्योंकि अभी पता चल गया उनको कि वी आर इन अनमूवेबल इन दैट एरिया, राइट? सो then there are some questions which people have asked. Can you construct permanent structures out there? You can construct nothing out there except temporary structures. And those temporary structures, nature makes them hard and permanent. Because it is so cold, you cannot break it again. Okay? You can't take cement and all. It is impossible. Snow out there is cement. एक बार वो जम जाता है, it doesn't, you can't, it is unbreakable. It even withstands, what shall I say, bullet fire. So there's no question of anything else. It is just man and his will to survive. And what that will to survive is something what General Kulkarni today narrated to you. I must thank you, Sanjay, for this fantastic narration.
That was